gathering my thoughts. My train is a bit disrupted. I think I'm going to jump back to, I think, that other question that I wanted to ask is like, amidst all these challenges that you have faced, because like I know that I kind of resonate with that language problem. It's like my parents, when I was younger, would always be like, here's taxes, here's government forms, go read them, understand them, and do them. And it's like, I have no idea what these words mean. um, but like you had to do even more, which I think is incredible. And at the same time, like you did go through that process of figuring out what you want to study, what kind of vocation you want, or like you're on that journey, right? Can you speak a bit to, I guess, maybe juggling that, or just how you found yourself as to studying what you are studying now? Like, did you always know? And I also, please do share what you are studying.
Sure. Right now, I'm studying a PhD at UT Austin in computer engineering. Um, so I like research. I generally enjoy the aspect of research. Even if it comes that like your idea failed completely and you couldn't get it to work kind of thing. But that's what research is about, right? I guess in that sense, I started finding what I like, what I enjoy uh, through hobbies, right? Back in the day, I remember in Mexico, I used to go visit my neighbor because he was a technician. He used to fix the things in the town. He would fix speakers, phones, and like stereos. And it would just be really fascinating because I've never had access to any of that. He will open a random console or random TV and you will see random pieces of metal everywhere. I'm like, oh man, like that's so interesting. What do you do to them? Like, well, what are they doing? Like stuff like that, right? So that was my first interaction with them, with I guess computers in this case. But then it became more of a source of living aside from going to school. I remember I used to have Facebook and I'll have group chats or groups. Man, back in the day, it was the entire city like had a group to sell stuff, right? Oh, I'm selling my couch, I'm selling my anything. And I started selling my services, quote unquote, to fix stuff because that's what I had been doing before for fun. So I remember I used to be like, oh, I'll buy this broken phone off of eBay for $10, and I'll have a new phone by the time I fix it. And that was me. That was me in high school. That was me growing up with just this small little projects that I set myself for. And eventually I felt like I got to a point where I could perform things like that. And I started helping my mom with that. I was like, oh, here, mom, I got $20 from swapping this screen from this phone, or like changing this battery in this laptop. So it became more of also of a way of supporting my mom. And I kind of realized, because I myself did not really look much into college, like my parents wanted me to go to college, right? But when I first started post-15, it's like, wow, like I don't think I've ever seen that many zeros next to a number. How am I going to pay for it? How am I going to go into an institution like that and justify that expenditure? How am I going to have my parents help me with that, right? So I was very fortunate to have a good college career coach or a uh, good center where you could find like scholarships, where you can find like things to pay. How do you pay for college or financial aid? Uh, so always my coach or my financial aid coach, I still talk to him a lot. It's like, man, you have to apply for this. You're broke. There's no way you can afford college otherwise. And I'm like, man, you're right. Let me go and apply for it. And I'll be writing essays all day. I remember I used to be really into tennis as well. So I made a lot of time after class for tennis. I'll be playing tennis like 7 p.m. until dark every day. I got such a good time out of that, my 2 years that I started playing. Eventually, I couldn't even do tennis because I was so focused on just making sure that I had enough to come to college, that my parents didn't have to worry about me coming to a different town, having to have these other expenditures, having to afford it, right? Uh, so yeah, I was like, man, now that I have some resources, what am I going to study? What am I supposed to get into, right? I was like, oh, I think I'm good at electronics. Let me see what's around there with electronics. I start looking around. I'm like, oh, computer science, computer engineering, and other like majors I like. I'm like, okay, I think I like computer engineering. I think I can do this and that and that. And this is fascinating because I was looking into it and I got a chance to. Uh, so I'm like, okay, I'm not doing computer engineering. And I remember I was not even part of the top 10. So my college I was a little nervous about it. Uh, and we just started applying everywhere. We had a lot of waiting times. We were in periods where we were like, oh, this person got a full ride to this school and they're going this and that and that. And sometimes you feel a little discouraged, right? You see all these people achieving a lot, that you see other people achieving certain things that perhaps you were looking forward to, that you forget about your own achievements. And I had the good chance of coming to college and not having to spend from my parents, not having my parents draw out of pocket from their jobs or something like that. So yeah, I got into college and that was really eye-opening. My high school was 98, 97% Hispanic. So every kid that I saw was like me, right? Perhaps came from the same background conditions. They knew the language a lot better than me, I'll tell you that. But I felt in some way related, like I could relate to them in some way. And once it came to A&M, I saw just people having like fancy equipment, fancy transportation. They had all these ways of living. They spend their time doing this and that. And I'm like, okay, like I don't have that. Like I cannot do that, right? I have to focus on what I came here to do. So I started just grinding for my classes, and I remember I took that like very determined to go into my classes. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this computer science course right off the bat. Like I know I got it. I know what programming is. And I went in. I remember I made a 17 in my first exam for my computer science course. And I was like, man, this is the universe telling me to quit, right? Like this is just not it. Uh, and my roommate at the time was taking the question. I was like, yeah, man, I don't think I can do this. Like this is way too hard. And you just see all these other people who had previous programming experience, like hackathons under the belt and all these other things they had a chance to experience. You get discouraged or like, man, this guy is smart. Well, I'm not as smart for this. Like, I don't have the resources for that. And I knew what to do, right? And yeah, I just stick with it. I remember like, okay, if it's not something I learned in the past, it's something I have to learn right now. Sure, I ended up getting a C in the computer science course. I remember because it turns out it was not only me the one failing, right? But that's a different point. So I stick through it. I remember I went to through my undergrads of school, like almost borderline crying a lot of the times because I was like, man, if I just quit right now, things will be so much easier. Like I wouldn't have to worry about this tomorrow, right? And I think that's a lot of us undergrad or like I guess our first experience with higher education was that something I like. You were striving for an exam and you were like, man, I wish I can just quit right now and just like call it a day, like not have to worry about it tomorrow. And everybody, I feel like everybody's seeking their own degree for their own reasons, whether that is to have a more comfortable life or to do what you're passionate about or to just find a sense of purpose within, yeah, like a career and or a combination of all of them, of course. And it's important to always, give yourself a break. Know that what you're doing is enough at a time, and that those challenges eventually like ease up on you. Like I know you will always get them constantly, and you will probably always struggle with test anxiety, or you perhaps will always struggle with procrastination. But it's important to remind yourself that you're trying to improve yourself whether that is a slow pace or whether it takes a lot more time than you think it would. But yeah, it's just fascinating how college builds up a lot of character on a lot of people, right? And that can be very determined on your major. Your major can also turn out to be something you don't like, and that's also okay. If you want to switch out and you find a different passion, something different, then by all means go pursue it, because you're never set into something. Things always change. And I keep telling myself that even at this level, I'm like, okay, screw it. If the PhD is not there, then it's not there. I'm not gonna force it. I feel like I have a way of going about it differently than I did in undergrad. That does not mean that I'm taking more of a quitter approach, but more so of a more relaxed approach. Like, this is something that I'm here for because I want to be here for, because I find it fascinating, because I find just important to what I do and what I want to do. So yeah, that's how I went about choosing what I study. And it took a lot. I mean, even I remember up to junior year, I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, who would want to hire me? Like, I freeze my computer every 5 minutes. I get a random syntax error in my code. Like, my code is really bad, or like I burned this FPGA, or like I burned this board. Or how I'm gonna like even justify that I'm learning, right? So that's some of the fears that we have as undergrads. And it's true. It's true that even adults, they keep it very secretive, right? And even adults are winging it. We are winging it in some way, right? Every day we stand up and we're like, oh man, I gotta do that homework. I gotta get to make sure that I get this job done, my job, like get this task done. And it's just very day-to-day kind of life now. So don't question yourself on the efforts you're making from every day to every day, but rather just acknowledge that you're making that effort. And if you feel there's some sort of improvement you can make, then go ahead, try it out. But don't beat yourself too much for it, because yeah, it's just you're giving it what you can at the time, and that in itself is enough. But yeah, I guess that's how I went about my career, finding a passion with everything going on in the background.
Awesome. I have this, I think I do want to maybe keep. I'll try to make this my last question. And this is me trying to combine a bit of like, I know your passions with helping open up doors for people, right? Like immigration.